God for, that's what I'm believing is happening. So we're looking at a world that's gone mad, right? But we exist beyond that. So I pray that you anoint my words. I pray that you bless my feet. I pray that you show people truth through your word with me. So I don't really know that I'm getting into the word this morning. I'm just here for a little bit before I go and help a friend. So let's see where this goes. I really don't. That'd be fun to watch this morning, probably. I don't know how loud that prayer was because I didn't have my microphone up. It's okay though. Um, it's good to be with you guys this morning. We're gonna see what this does. If there's anything that
Base
is
44
short,
super
we'll
agents,
watch it.
the next thing you can't live without. No setup. Just say hello. Every tool you already use, plugged in a click. And away it goes. Analyzing.
Light is really weird, but here it's doing something really cool. Sometimes we talk about photons being the particles of light, but often, especially in astronomy, we talk about light as if it's a wave. We talk about wavelengths and redshifts, amplitudes and frequencies, all properties of waves. The issue for me is that light doesn't really...
We're gonna start this. This is only 10 minutes. We'll watch it.
Light is really weird, but here it's doing something really cool. Sometimes we talk about photons being the particles of light, but often, especially in astronomy, we talk about light as if it's a wave. We talk about wavelengths and redshifts, amplitudes and frequencies, all properties of waves. The issue for me is that light doesn't really seem to act like a...
Okay, so this is important information because it's talking about light existing as a wave. I don't know why this isn't open anymore. There we go. So we're talking about light existing as a wave. And we need to realize that when we're existing as a wave pattern, that's when we're in the presence of God. I mean, we always are, but that's where when we're a wave, then we're at the place where we can see into that realm, if that makes sense. So that's what I love about this experiment, because the double slit experiment, it says that light exists as a wave and a particle. So it says that things can be both and instead of either or. So when you start looking at the world from that perspective, then you'll see things differently. I guess I do anyway. I can't say what you're going to see. I just know what I see.
Wave most of the time. At least not to my intuition. That is, until now, where this smoky double slit experiment actually seems to reveal the light acting as a wave in front of our eyes. As an astronomer, I'm pretty happy to talk about light being a wave. Even though to me, the picture of particles carrying light feels much more intuitive somehow. That's the odd thing about light. Sometimes it acts as a particle, and sometimes it acts as a wave. By odd, I really mean it's very confusing and very unintuitive. But that's what the experiments show us, that it really does act as both. And we call this the wave-particle duality of light. This duality is usually demonstrated with a famous experiment called the double slit experiment. There are lots of variations of this experiment, but here I just want to show you a very simple version of it. As I say, there are more complicated versions beyond what I could do at home, but I'll leave links to other videos that describe them if you want to check those out. For example, you can do the same experiment with electrons instead of light, or introduce particle detectors on your slits to see some other crazy results. But that's very much beyond the scope of me playing science in my spare room. What I do have is a laser, and these diaphragms that provide the double slits. They're basically some sort of black film that blocks the laser light, but they have two very thin slits here that do let light through. These particular diaphragms actually have 3 sets of slits, which are different widths, but unless I say otherwise, I've been using the thinnest ones here, which have slits that are each 0.1 millimeters wide. The cool thing about the double slit experiment is what you see if you shine the laser through the double slits and take a look at the pattern you get on, say, a wall or a sheet of paper. If light behaved as a particle...
Alright, this is for anyone out there who's interested in getting me a laser and that film he's got to be able to do this experiment from home here. That'd be great, guys. That'd be fantastic.
We might expect to see 2 spots of light on the wall, where some particles go through one slit and some go through the other, and then they would just keep traveling forward to make 2 spots. The issue is, that is not what we see at all. If we actually do shine the laser through the slits, we see a whole load of bright spots on the wall. They seem to be brighter in the center and get fainter the further away from the middle we go. We call this an interference pattern, and it's caused because light is acting like a wave. Instead of light just going through the slits and continuing to travel forward, each of the slits actually acts like a new source of light. If you haven't seen it before, I think this alone is a mind-bending result. The light spreads out in a process called diffraction, and it's the same effect that causes bright stars to look spiky in telescope images, a topic I very much enjoy and have a whole separate video about. Here, the light spreads out from each hole as a wave, and then these 2 waves start to interfere with each other. In some places, the waves combine, and these are shown as the spots where we see light on the wall. But in some places, the waves cancel each other out, and that's where we see no light on the wall. You could do this same experiment with water waves too, and you'd see the same effect. The thing is, it's much easier to see what's going on with the water, and we're probably all happy to accept that water does move as waves. It's much harder to see how this happens for light though. For example, a quick search would show you lots of movies like this one on Wikipedia, but all of them are simulations.
Apparently you can go from 0 to a complete site in just a single prompt with Wix Harmony. I don't know if this is going to be possible. Or vibe coding meets drag and drop freedom. We'll see about that. All right, let me try to make up a site to sell some like theoretical kombucha.
How do we know they're right and light actually is doing this? Well, let's add a new aspect to our double slit experiment: smoke. This is all inspired by an absolutely incredible video by Mythana and the Looking Glass Universe channel. That's the first place I saw this done. It blew my mind and I just had to try it out too. That video also has an amazing description of everything that's going on in this experiment and similar experiments too. So definitely go and watch that video using the link in the description. The idea here is to do the exact same double slit experiment that I just talked about, but fill the room with smoke in order to see the beams of light as they travel in their wave-like manners. You can see here that a bit of smoke in a can reveals the beam nicely, but we'll definitely need more than this to see everything. So let's go grab a proper smoke machine. If you've seen stuff on this channel before, you'll know I'll take any excuse to fill this room with smoke in the name of science. So let's go again. I tried this experiment with both a red and a green laser to see if we could see any differences. The red laser I had didn't seem to be powerful enough though, so most of the successful footage here is with the green laser. However, I did get a few cool shots, so I hope you enjoy these few red clips, because lasers and smoke are cool either way, whether or not the exact experiment worked properly here. Annoyingly, the green one I had doesn't usually stay on by itself, but we employed a high-tech laser persistence device here, so that it would actually stay on for us. Actually, this is footage from the first time we tried this, but the results weren't quite as spectacular as we hoped. I should also take this moment to say that if you do want to repeat the experiment, do be careful with the lasers. I wore these super cool looking goggles to protect my eyes, and I was very careful not to shine the laser too close to the camera. It would permanently damage both of those things, and we definitely want to avoid that. But one, much more than the other. Anyway, disclaimer over, let's see those lasers in action. Round 2, and we've moved to a longer and darker room to try again. On this second attempt, we got some cool footage, right? I hope you think this is as cool as I do. It's using the thinnest 0.1mm slits. And what we're seeing here is just like water waves would produce. While we can't see the waves actually moving, what we can see is each beam that goes on to produce a spot in the interference pattern on the wall. We're seeing light truly acting like a wave. No simulations required. Honestly, I'm so happy I got this to work and I got to see it for real. And I'm also delighted that no one called the police or fire brigade, despite all of the smoke and lasers coming from our house. Something I wasn't expecting, but is obvious in hindsight, is that we actually get diffraction spikes on the laser here. If we count them, we see 8 spikes, which means that when I close the aperture on the camera I'm using, it must make an octagon. Again, more details in that video I just talked about, and you'll see exactly why an octagonal aperture will give you 8 spikes. 8 is the same number of spikes we get in those JWST images we all love. Although here, it's purely caused by the octagonal shape of the aperture. Whereas for JWST, you get 6 spikes from the hexagonal mirror, and an extra 2 that come from the struts that hold up the secondary mirror. So similar, and both are pretty, but not exactly the same. Having these vertical slits spreads the light out horizontally. Hopefully you can see that it is spread out side to side, but not up and down at all. Although I do appreciate that maybe the perspective is hard to see here, since the room is so dark. In this next shot, I've rotated the slits 90 degrees. I'm starting with the camera in the same orientation as before, and there isn't much interference to be seen. But if I now rotate the camera 90 degrees too, the spreading out suddenly becomes very visible. And also, I'm having so much fun in the smoke here. I did repeat all of this with the wider slits too, and this should slightly change the interference pattern produced by the light waves. Here is the middle 0.15mm slits, and here are the widest 0.2mm slits. Let me know in the comments if you can see any differences and what they are if you do spot any. For a bit of fun, I also did the experiment with a triple slit. So that's 3 thin slits in the diaphragm. And to be honest, this shouldn't make too much difference to the pattern we see. Instead of 2 waves interacting, we just have 3 waves interacting instead. The exact interference we see does change a little, as the wave interactions are a bit different, but largely it does look the same. Again, we can play spot the difference with 3 slits, 4 slits, and even 5 slits. The beams do get quite a lot fainter quite quickly as we increase the number of slits, and the spacing between them does change a little bit too. I tried to stand in the same spot and have the camera at the same angle each time, so these comparisons can be as fair as possible. One thing I did try here and couldn't capture well on my own was a double slit. 2 diaphragms stood with a 90-degree turn on one of them. So really it's just shining laser through a little square hole. This should make a cross or grid-shaped pattern on the wall, and I think capturing this in the smoke would look incredible, but it was super hard to see when I tried it this time. I'll try again if there's interest in the comments, as I think it would be hard to catch, but totally awesome if we got it. Either way, in my opinion, this awesome experiment really helps show that light can behave like a wave. It's why we feel comfortable talking about the expansion of the universe stretching the wavelength of light, something we call cosmological redshift. It makes clearer how light can even have a wavelength or a frequency, plus this just looks really pretty. Let me know in the comments if there are any other variations of this you'd want to see, or just let me know your comments and questions down below, and thanks for watching. Until next time, stay safe team. I'll see you soon. Bye!
Now we gotta go help people customize and save hundreds with Liberty Mutual. Libu, where's the golf cart? There it is. Only pay